Every morning you wake up with a choice. You can carry yesterday's weight, letting it drag behind you like an anchor, or you can recognize something fundamental. Today is a fresh start, a clean slate, a new page in the book of your life. And whether you realize it or not, that choice shapes everything. It determines the way you move through the day, how you respond to challenges, and ultimately the direction your life takes. Because here's the truth, too many people wake up already defeated. They open their eyes and the first thing they do is replay the mistakes of yesterday. The argument they had, the opportunity they missed, the time they wasted. Their mind clings to regret, to frustration, to all the things they wish they had done differently. But dwelling on the past in that way is like trying to drive forward while staring in the rearview mirror. It's a surefire way to crash. Understand this, yesterday is done. The past cannot be rewritten. No amount of guilt, self-criticism, or mental punishment will change it. But today is still in your hands. Right now, in this very moment, you have the power to decide how you're going to show up in your own life. And that's a responsibility. You owe it to yourself to rise up, to take the lessons from yesterday without the burden of yesterday's shame. Some people say, well, it's not that easy. You don't know what I've been through, and no, maybe the world hasn't been fair to you. Maybe life has thrown things your way that you never deserved. Maybe you've made mistakes that seem impossible to recover from. But here's what you need to understand. Growth doesn't come from wishing the past were different. It comes from standing up in the present and deciding that, from this moment forward, things will change. And change begins the moment you stop identifying yourself with your past failures. You are not yesterday's mistakes. You are not the bad decisions, the lost opportunities, or the moments of weakness. You are whoever you decide to be today. And if you can wake up with that understanding, then there's no limit to what you can rebuild. Think about it. What if, instead of waking up with guilt or worry, you woke up with the mindset that today is an opportunity, that today you have another shot to do better, to think clearer, to act with purpose. That one simple shift in perspective could change everything. Instead of wasting energy on what's already behind you, you redirect that energy toward building the life you want. You make today count. This is what people don't realize. Your life is being created in the small, seemingly insignificant decisions you make each morning. You can't wake up and tell yourself that nothing changes, that you're stuck, that you're just going through the motions, or you can wake up and decide to take control, to start fresh, to move with intent. And yes, it's going to take effort. Yes, there will be resistance. Your mind will want to drag you back into old patterns because the familiar, even when it's painful, feels safer than the unknown. But you can push through that. You can remind yourself that you are not bound by your past, that your future is shaped by what you do now. It starts with small things. Maybe today you get up a little earlier and set a clear intention for the day. Maybe today you silence that inner voice that tells you you're not good enough. Maybe today you take one step, just one, toward a goal you've been putting off. And maybe today, for the first time in a long time, you let go of the idea that your past defines you, because it doesn't. You define you. And every single morning, you have the power to step into that truth. So the question is, what are you going to do with today? Are you going to let it slip through your fingers, lost to the same old routines, the same doubts, the same fears? Or are you going to claim it, stand up, shake off the weight of yesterday, and decide that today you move forward? Every single person walking this earth carries something heavy, a burden, a struggle, a weight pressing down on them, trying to convince them that they're not strong enough to carry it. And in those moments of doubt, when life feels unbearable, it's easy to believe that you're powerless, that the obstacles ahead of you are too big, too overwhelming, too much for you to overcome. But that belief, it's a lie, because struggle is not proof of weakness. Struggle is proof of life. It's proof that you're still in the fight, still pushing forward despite the resistance. And the fact that you're here, the fact that you've made it through everything that was designed to break you should tell you something. You are stronger than your struggles. People don't always see it that way. They think strength is about never falling, never failing, never feeling pain. But real strength, the kind that lasts, the kind that builds character, is forged in adversity. It's built through suffering. It's built through the moments when you think you can't take another step, but somehow you do. Look at your own life. Think of the worst moments you've experienced, the hardest battles you've fought. You made it through. Maybe you didn't come out unscathed. Maybe you carry the scars. Maybe you're still healing. But you made it through. And that means something. It means you're resilient. It means that no matter how much life has tried to tear you down, you are still standing. But here's where most people go wrong. They don't see their struggles as a source of strength. They see them as evidence that they're broken, as proof that life is unfair. And yes, maybe life is unfair. Maybe you've been dealt a hand that you never asked for. Maybe the pain you've experienced wasn't your fault. But what you do with that pain, that part is yours to own. You have two choices. You can let your struggles define you, make you bitter, convince you that the world is against you, or you can take every ounce of suffering, every challenge, the way you think, the way you perceive the world, the way you interpret the events of your life. These things matter more than you realize, because your mindset isn't just some abstract concept. It's not just a collection of random thoughts floating through your head. It's the lens through which you experience reality. It's the foundation upon which your actions are built. And if you don't take control of it, if you let it be shaped by circumstance, by fear, by doubt, then you're surrendering the most powerful tool you have, the ability to choose how you engage with the world. Think about it. You wake up in the morning and immediately a flood of thoughts enters your mind. Some of them are positive, some of them are destructive. Some tell you that today is filled with opportunity, that you're capable, that there's meaning in the work ahead of you. Others whisper that you're tired, that nothing ever changes, that today is just another battle you're going to lose. And in that moment, before you even set foot on the ground, you've already started shaping the direction of your day, because whether you realize it or not, your thoughts dictate your actions. If you wake up convinced that today is going to be exhausting, meaningless, or overwhelming, you'll carry yourself in a way that proves that belief true. You'll hesitate, you'll retreat, you'll see obstacles instead of possibilities. But if you wake up and decide consciously that today is an opportunity, that you are capable, that you are in control of your own response to the world, then suddenly the day looks different. It hasn't actually changed. The circumstances are the same, but you have changed, and that makes all the difference. Now, this isn't about pretending that life is perfect. It's not about plastering a fake smile on your face and ignoring reality. No, quite the opposite. It's about looking reality dead in the eye and understanding that while you can't always control what happens, you can always control how you respond. And that control, that's everything. Because it means that even on the hardest days, even when life knocks you down, you still have power. You still have the ability to decide what kind of person you're going to be. And that decision is made in the small moments. It's made when you choose to focus on what you can do instead of what you can't. It's made when you refuse to let fear dictate your choices. It's made when you stop waiting for the perfect circumstances and start working with what you have. Because mindset isn't just about what you think, it's about what you do with those thoughts. It's about whether you allow them to shape you into something stronger or let them drag you down into weakness. And people underestimate just how much power they have in this regard. They think that their emotions, their thoughts, their perspectives are just things that happen to them. But they're not. They're things that can be trained, refined, strength, and that means that every single day you have an opportunity to shape your mind into something that serves you instead of something that holds you back. So start small. When you wake up, before you let the world pull you in 100 different directions, take a moment to direct your mind. Set a standard for yourself. Decide how you're going to show up. Choose to move with purpose, even when it's hard. Choose to engage with life, even when it's tempting to withdraw. Choose to believe that today holds potential, not because it's guaranteed, but because you are willing to create it. Because in the end, that's what it comes down to. You can't wait for the world to hand you a perfect day. You have to build it. And that process starts the moment you open your eyes. There's something deeply unsettling about the way people talk to themselves, the way they dismiss their own worth, the way they convince themselves that success and happiness belong to someone else, someone more talented, more fortunate, more deserving. It's as if they've made a silent agreement with mediocrity, as if they've accepted without question the idea that they are meant to struggle, meant to suffer, meant to exist in a perpetual state of inadequacy. But that belief is not based in truth. It's a lie, and it's a lie that keeps people trapped in lives far smaller than the ones they are capable of living. Because here's the reality: every single person has the capacity for success. Every single person has the right to pursue happiness. But rights mean nothing if you don't claim them. If you've spent your whole life believing that you are not worthy of something, you will never reach for it. You will never take the steps required to achieve it. And the tragedy of that is overwhelming, because most of the time, the only thing standing between a person and the life they want is their own unwillingness to believe that they are worthy of it. Think about what happens when you internalize the idea that you don't deserve success. You hesitate, you shrink yourself, you avoid risks, you stay in situations that drain you, because deep down, you don't think you're worthy of something better. You watch other people chase their dreams, build their lives, achieve incredible things, and instead of seeing proof that success is possible, you tell yourself that it's simply not for you. And if you do that long enough, if you let that belief take root, it will shape everything. It will dictate the jobs you apply for, the relationships you stay in, the goals you pursue. It will keep you small, keep you silent, keep you from ever testing the limits of what you are capable of. And what a tragedy that would be, because the truth is you are capable of so much more than you've been led to believe. Now, this isn't about entitlement. It's not about sitting back and expecting life to hand you success and happiness on a silver platter. No, quite the opposite. It's about recognizing that you have the right to pursue those things, that you have just as much potential, just as much ability, just as much worth as the people you admire. And once you truly accept that, once you stop waiting for permission to go after the life you want, everything changes. Because success doesn't come to those who sit around wondering if they deserve it. It comes to those who decide that they do and then back that decision with action. And happiness? Happiness isn't something you stumble upon by accident. It's something you build. It's something you cultivate piece by piece through the way you live, the way you think, the way you engage with the world. And if you believe, even for a second, that you are unworthy of it, you will sabotage yourself at every turn. So you have a choice to make. You can keep telling yourself that you are not enough, that success is for other people, that happiness is something you'll never truly experience. Or you can decide right now that you are done playing small, that you are done living by a script that was never meant for you, that you are willing to step into your own potential, not because it's easy, not because it's guaranteed, but because you refuse to live a life dictated by fear and self-doubt. And when you make that choice, when you start living as though success and happiness are not just possible, but meant for you, you will see the world shift. Opportunities will appear where before there were only obstacles. Doors will open where before there were only walls. And it won't be because the world changed, it will be because you changed. Because you finally decided to claim what has been yours all along. People have this tendency to wait, to hesitate, to convince themselves that they'll take action someday when they're more prepared, when they're more confident, when the circumstances are perfect, but someday never comes. Because the truth is, there is no perfect moment. No magical day when fear disappears, when the path is clear, when the world gives you permission to pursue what you want. There is only now. And if you don't act now, if you don't take even the smallest step toward your goals today, you never will. That hesitation, that constant delaying of action, it's the quiet killer of potential. People think failure is the worst thing that can happen to them, but it's not. The worst thing is looking back years from now and realizing that you never really tried, that you let fear dictate your choices, that you let doubt talk you out of your own future, that you wasted time waiting for the right conditions instead of stepping forward and creating them. And the most tragic part, most of the time people don't even realize they're doing it. They tell themselves stories that justify their inaction. I'm not ready yet. I'll start when I have more money, more time, more experience. I just need to think it through a little more. But that's just another way of saying, I'm afraid. Afraid of failing, afraid of judgment, afraid of discovering that maybe they're not as capable as they hope to be. And so they wait. But what they don't realize is that the waiting itself is failure. Because nothing changes, nothing improves, nothing grows when you're standing still. You have to move, you have to do something. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't even have to be big, it just has to be something. Because the moment you take action, real action, you shift the trajectory of your life. And that shift is everything, because action creates momentum. It forces you to adapt, to learn, to grow, and suddenly you're not just thinking about your goals, you're building them. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, you will fail. Yes, you will have days where you wonder if it's even worth it. But do you know what's worse than failure? Staying exactly where you are. Looking back years from now and realizing that all those dreams, all those ambitions, they were possible. You just never reached for them. So you have to stop hesitating. You have to stop waiting for the perfect moment, because it doesn't exist. The only moment you have is this one, and what you do with it will determine the life you build. So take action. Start now, because your goals aren't going to wait for you forever. Gratitude is not just some pleasant idea, some vague sentimental notion that people talk about but rarely practice. It's not about pretending life is perfect or ignoring suffering. No, gratitude is something far deeper, far more powerful. It is a tool, a discipline, a way of seeing the world that fundamentally transforms the way you think, the way you act, the way you engage with life itself. And yet, most people dismiss it. They hear the word gratitude and they think it's weak, naive, simplistic. They assume it means overlooking hardships, turning a blind eye to reality, pretending that everything is fine when it isn't. But that is not gratitude. That is delusion. Real gratitude doesn't ignore suffering. It faces it head on. It acknowledges that life is difficult, that pain is inevitable, that things will go wrong, and then it makes a choice. A choice to find meaning in the struggle. A choice to focus on what is still good, still possible, still worth fighting for. Because what is the alternative? To fixate on everything that's wrong, to dwell in frustration, bitterness, resentment? That path leads nowhere. It turns you into a victim, someone who spends their days consumed by what they lack, rather than empowered by what they have. And once you start thinking like that, once you let yourself believe that life is only taken from you and given you nothing, you become blind to the opportunities, the relationships, the moments of joy that still exist. And when you stop seeing them, when you stop appreciating them, you begin to lose them. Gratitude is not a denial of suffering. It is a rebellion against it. It is the conscious refusal to let hardship steal your ability to recognize what is still valuable, still meaningful. And that recognition, that shift in perspective is what changes everything. Because when you live with gratitude, you don't just see what you have, you protect it, you nurture it, you build upon it, you create more of it. Think about the way the mind works. If you constantly tell yourself that life is unfair, that nothing ever goes your way, that you're surrounded by problems, then that becomes your reality. Your mind will search for evidence to confirm it. You'll find reasons to be frustrated, reasons to be angry, reasons to believe that you're always at a disadvantage. And once that belief takes root, it shapes your behavior. You become cynical, withdrawn, less willing to put in the effort, less willing to take risks, less willing to connect with others. Because why bother? If the world is out to get you, if nothing ever works in your favor, then what's the point? But if you shift that perspective, if you train yourself to look for what is good, for what is possible, for what you can be grateful for, then your reality changes. Your brain starts to notice different things. You begin to see opportunity where before there was only difficulty. You start to feel a sense of control, a sense of purpose, a sense of responsibility. And responsibility matters, because if you believe that life has given you something valuable, whether it's your health, your relationships, your skills, your ability to think, to create, to contribute, then you feel a duty to protect it, to improve it, to use it for something meaningful. And that is what separates those who grow from those who remain stuck. The people who succeed, the people who build meaningful lives, are not the ones who had everything handed to them. They're the ones who took what they did have, however small, and used it. They cultivated it, they appreciated it, they built upon it until it became something greater. And that process, that ability to recognize and nurture what is good, is only possible when you are capable of gratitude. But gratitude is not passive. It's not just a feeling that comes and goes whenever life happens to be going well. It is a discipline. It requires effort. It requires practice. And it begins in the smallest moments. You wake up in the morning, and instead of immediately thinking about everything you have to do, everything that stresses you out, everything that is wrong, you take a breath. You recognize that you woke up at all, that you have another day, another chance. And maybe that seems small, maybe it seems insignificant, but it isn't. Because the alternative, the reality that one day you won't wake up, is real. And that alone should be enough to remind you that today is something worth appreciating. Then you get up and you pay attention to the warmth of the sunlight, to the ability to move your body, to the fact that you have people in your life who care about you. And again, maybe these things seem small, but they are not. Because there are people in the world who would give anything to have what you take for granted. There are people who don't have a home, who don't have health, who don't have the chance to change their circumstances. And if you do, if you have anything in your life that gives you the ability to grow, to improve, to contribute, then that is something to be grateful for. But gratitude is not just about recognizing what you already have, it is also about how you move through the world. When you approach life with gratitude, you treat people differently. You don't see relationships as disposable. You don't take others for granted. You don't spend your days bitter waiting for the world to give you something because you already recognize that you have something. And that changes the way you interact with people. It makes you more patient, more generous, more willing to listen, more willing to appreciate. And those things matter because the way you treat others directly impacts the quality of your own life. And when things go wrong, and they will go wrong, gratitude is what keeps you from falling apart. It's what keeps you grounded. Because even in the worst moments, even in times of loss, of failure, of uncertainty, gratitude allows you to hold on to something real. It reminds you that even in suffering, there is still meaning. There is still something left to fight for, something left to protect. And that is why gratitude is not just an emotion. It is not just a fleeting feeling that comes and goes depending on the circumstances. It is a practice. It is a way of thinking, a way of engaging with the world, a way of training your mind to recognize what is valuable. And when you do that, when you make the conscious decision every day to appreciate what is good, to protect it, to nurture it, your entire life shifts. You stop waiting for happiness. You stop waiting for the perfect conditions. You stop living as if you are missing something, and instead you start living as if you already have something worth building upon. Every morning you are given a choice to carry forward the same doubts, the same hesitations, the same limitations that have held you back, or a choice to break free from them, a choice to remind yourself that today is a fresh start, that you are stronger than your struggles, that your mindset determines your day, that you deserve success and happiness, that your goals demand action, and that gratitude will guide you. And these are not just words, they are principles, they are tools, they are the foundation upon which you build your life. Because the way you speak to yourself matters. The beliefs you hold about yourself shape your actions, your decisions, your future. If you allow fear, self-doubt, and negativity to dictate your thoughts, then they will dictate your life. But if you take control of your mind, if you choose to see challenges as opportunities, if you choose to believe in your own strength, if you choose to act rather than wait, then there is no limit to what you can accomplish. The world does not hand out success or happiness freely. It does not wait for you to be ready. It demands that you rise, that you push forward even when it's difficult, that you refuse to surrender to the weight of your own excuses. And it all begins with the way you think, the way you speak to yourself, the way you set the tone for your day every single morning. So when you wake up tomorrow, remember, you are not powerless. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are responsible for shaping your own destiny. The life you want is not beyond your reach. It is waiting for you to claim it. And the only question left is whether you will.